Okay, so you can see that we are generating out some data and displaying these numbers that have been generated. So let's refresh a couple of times and see if these change. Yet they are in fact changing. Now let's have a look at the width of the image. So the width of the image is a bit off, it's way too big, so we need to decrease it by about half. So let's go ahead and do that. So there's not really going to be much changes to be made, so let's change that to 100 and come in and refresh. Okay, so that looks about right actually. Our image size, that's the problem, because we might have slightly longer characters. So let's change this to 120 just to be safe. Maybe 110. So it's just a matter of fiddling around with things until you're happy. So I'm quite happy with this. Now the only problem with this is that we need to generate some kind of noise. We need to generate something that masks these letters and is still readable by humans but might not be readable by a computer. So let's come down to just after we set our text color, because the function that we're going to be using is going to require a text color in there, and the function that we're going to be using is image line, and this image line function takes a few parameters. I'll just explain the function before we continue. The first one is the image that we're working with. The second one is we need to specify x1 and y1 and x2 and y2, and then the text color. So we've already got this variable defined here. So this, even though it says text color, we're creating the lines to be black as well. This is exactly the same. So these are just the coordinates that we're creating that at. So we want to do something. We want to create coordinates that are completely random, so they're going to be splashed across our image. So how can we do this? Well, I'm going to create a for loop for this, and we're going to loop a specific amount of times, and we're going to generate 4 variables, which is x1, x2, y1 and y2. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put these into the image line function in order to generate random lines with different coordinates that are going to be, chopping and changing each time. So we've created a for loop, the skeleton for our for loop. We're going to set the variable first of all, which is x equal to 1, and then I'm going to say while x is smaller than or equal to, let's give it a value of about 30 for now. What this means is 30 lines are going to be generated, because we're going to run this image line function inside our for loop. So 30 lines are going to be generated. Remember, we need to increment our x value each time. So essentially what this does is it's going to loop 30 times. This loop's going to loop 30 times. So for each 30 times that we loop, we want to create a variable x1, y1, x2, and y2, and these are going to be equal to a random value. Okay, so we need a random value for each one of these. So again, we can make use of our rand function as we did in here, but this time we're going to be generating a number with a lower limit of 1 and an upper limit of 100. So we can do that for each one. I mean, again, you feel free to chop and change with these. You can mess around with values depending on what kind of output you're looking for, but for now this is going to generate a number between 1 and 100. And now down here we can apply that to our image line function. So remember, I said the first parameter is image, which is the image we're working with at the moment, and then we're taking in x1, and then we need to take in x2, or y1, sorry. And then, I mean, it doesn't really matter in the order that you put them in, but I'm just adhering to the order in which this function takes parameters. So the last one we need to put in is y2, and then obviously, like I said before, we need to define a color for these lines. So you can feel free to choose your own colors, but I'm just going to be creating this black because I feel it merges with the font a lot better. And this means that it's going to be a bit harder to read. So we're inside our image, we're creating a line, so we're using the image line function in these coordinates, which are totally random, so it's going to splash them across our image, and we're creating it in black. So now let's go back and preview our image and see what it looks like. Okay, so great, what we're doing now is we're generating our random lines. They're all across our image, and it's quite hard to see the numbers, but if you do look carefully, you can still make them out. I think this one is 3, 9, it's either a 7 or a 1 and 3. Some are going to be harder to read than others. I think this is 6, 4, 1, 1. So the point of this is it's still human readable, but by a computer standards it might be quite hard to read this because we've got these lines going across. Okay, so what are we going to do next? Well, we've generated everything here. Now what I want to do is just echo out on this page. We're going to come down here under our image, and let's put a line break on the end of our image so we keep everything neat and tidy. I'm going to echo out the secure session just to make sure that each time it matches what we have in our image. So let's refresh. Now we've got 8756 here. This looks like 875 and a 6 to me. We've got 9125 here, so we've got 9125, that looks about right, and 2379. So you understand the point of this is that we're just making sure that they match every time.